In the last 72 hours, the crypto market completely nuked and sentiment is dead. Altcoins are dead. The meme coin craze is dead. And now is the best time to focus the hell up and lock in. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. And if you're not following me on all social media platforms, what are you guys doing? You need to now to make sure that you're staying up to date on everything crypto. Down in the description below, and join the free Discord. You're missing out on a ton of free information, a ton of great exit strategies that allowed me to be completely risk-free in this market, even over the course of this last crash, and even over the course of roughly 2024. Now, with that in mind, guys, let's talk about a few things. So, stocks completely crashed. Sentiment in the market is dead. Nobody's bullish at this point, unless, again, you've been around for a while. This has been the worst time in this market since roughly 2020. It's been the worst time in this market since FTX as well. FTX and March of 2020 don't even really I would argue they don't come close to what we just saw in this market. And I feel as though it's because there's a lot more participants in the space. There's a lot more money in the space. And if we really kind of take a step back and look back at those times, Bitcoin has barely done the same exact percentage move to the downside. As everyone has been extremely bearish on Bitcoin and on crypto over the last couple of days, I mean, this is what Bitcoin looks like. Off of the highs, this is down about roughly 29.61%. Off of the complete highs going back to March, it's about roughly 33.26%. We basically took liquidity from the January 11th high. We missed it by a slight little bit. We could still target it, still a possibility. We could still target these lows down here around this fair value gap, roughly 44,000 to 47.7K. But if we have a significant bounce here, and if we're reclaiming the July lows, reclaiming the May lows, that's a very good sign. That's a very good sign. The problem here is that we're now targeting this lower liquidity area, taking liquidity from the highs at this point, because this is the lows of July, but we're now retesting this area. We could very well continue to drop. This could be a dead cat bounce. But the number one thing that I want to focus on here is the total loss on Bitcoin, which is 33.26%. As panic is hitting this market and everyone's screaming, no bear market, no alt season, the market's dead, Nick, give up. I don't even know how you can be bullish at this point, because we've seen this before. Guys, let's take a quick look at Bitcoin back in 2021. This was the middle of the bear market. Bitcoin had a nice spike to the upside, drops by 53.62%, has a little bit of a spike to the upside again, and then drops an additional 63.51%. This total loss here on Bitcoin was 72.39%, followed by a 21.10% drop. And here's a few other ones up here, 26.46%, 31.3%, 27.63%, 55.68%, 25.22%. This is all in the middle of a bull run. Even if we go back to FTX, right? Off of this nice spike to the upside, FTX was a 30, almost 9% drop to the bottom. So if we're really looking at this move on Bitcoin, there's no difference here. This is simply a massive shakeout event, in my opinion, before we get a big spike to the upside on altcoins and even on Bitcoin. I don't know who needs to tell you this, but typically bottoms won't feel like bottoms. It will feel like we have a lot more to go in the market to the lows. I'm not trying to call the bottom here. I'm just saying that this could have been our bottom officially on Bitcoin, because it completely wiped the market out. It completely wiped sentiment. If we go and take a quick look at the day on altcoins and on the market, guys, this is what we are seeing here. This is major capitulation. And this is in the 1 to 100. This is the top 100. There is red everywhere. There's no sign of green except for FTN and a few other ones, but they're small. They're small little fish in this big sea of red. If we go over here to look at the Fear and Greed Index, we are now back to those September lows on the Fear and Greed Index, which is insane to me. Bitcoin Fear and Greed, now actually in fear. Last week we were in greed. This is what we want to see. It's a shake of the tree. It's shaking as many people out as possible. If we go and take a quick look at the gainers and the losers in the top 500 in the last 7 days, yes, there has been some nice gains. It's nothing significant. For the most part, this is what the top 500 looks like. 54% crashes. I mean, this is just insane to me. Some of these great projects like Maple are down 50%. There is some great projects out there right now in this space that are extremely oversold. Now, we'll talk about that here in a second, but let's actually address what happened, right? Which was a cascade of liquidations, right? In the last 24 hours, 1.24 billion wiped out of this market. 323,640 traders were liquidated in the last 24 hours. You know what's funny? Guys, this was posted at 2:55 a.m. Today, 274,729. Liquidations continue to pile up. Last hour, 65 million. 4 hours, 159 million. 12 hours, 489, almost $490 million wiped out of this market. That is insane to me. This is what we call a liquidity cascade on top of fear. The entire market since Friday has been extremely fearful. They were calling that the stock market crashed in a much larger way since going all the way back to 2020. They were comparing Japan back to, the 70s. They were saying that this was Black Monday, that, that's it. This market's dead. For an example, this is what we were seeing out there. Futures were down massively. Okay, volatility was up significantly. Japan's stock index was the worst day since Black Monday crash back in 1987. 60% chance of Fed stepping in with an emergency interest rate cut within a week. Like, this is everything that we've been hearing now. Then over here we have Black Monday meltdown, the situation, and we have a full breakdown of the entire situation. I mean, it's just insane to me that this is what we are now seeing around the space. It's fear mongering. It is extreme fear. Markets typically bottom on extreme fear. They don't top on extreme fear. I'm not saying that this is completely bottomed out or anything like that. We could very well be in a dead cat bounce right now, and we can continue even lower. And this would completely shut down any bullishness in this market. But just remember what Bitcoin looks like right now on the 1 week. This is what Bitcoin looks like on the 1 week. This is the 3 week as well. Again, yes, is this price action fun to see in this market? No. Are altcoins getting absolutely decimated? 100%. But for the most part, this is what Bitcoin looks like right now on the 3 week. I keep telling you guys to focus on the long-term path here. Right now, this market for altcoins, mid-term to long-term, there is beautiful opportunities out there in the space. Just looking at the top 100, XRP, sub 50 cents, 2 for $1. XLM, sub 10 cents. Guys, there is incredible opportunities out there. Hbar, 5 cents roughly. And could these go lower? A lot of people will say there's no way that these go lower. They could. They could go lower. Everything can go lower. But the number one thing that I'm focused on when it comes to Bitcoin, this is the key thing for everyone to focus on when it comes to Bitcoin, is reclaiming the lows. First, we need to reclaim the July lows, followed by the April-May lows. After we reclaim these, the number one thing that I'm watching for is taking out $67,500, which would give us that next big push to retest the highs that we saw back in the end of July, which would set us on a path to retest the March highs. But we have a lot of work to do here, and I don't think anyone should be denying that. So far, if we look at the lower time frames, like the 4 hour, very strong bounce here. Nothing too crazy, some support showing, but we need a lot more. We need a lot more price action. We need a lot more price data to really kind of confirm if we're bottomed out or not. Outside of this, right, exchanges are now going down. Major trading platforms, Fidelity, E-Trade, Vanguard, Ameritrade, Charles Schwab, guys, they're all going down because of the significant volume and users now tapping in. Again, fear is out there. bottoms won't feel like bottoms. Go back to March of 2020, go back to FTX, bottoms will never feel like bottoms. Now, when it comes to XRP, when it comes to most of this market, when it comes to any altcoins, the number one thing that I have been mentioning to you guys is the fair value gaps. I even said it back in July. I said a fair value gap on XRP, 44 cents to about 51 cents. We wicked down to about roughly 43.5 cents. Love to see it. Guys, this is incredible. This is beautiful. This is actually very healthy as well. Don't take this as like, oh, it's a terrible thing. Look at it as trading. When we look at this space, you need to reset the market. You need to redistribute the liquidity. That's exactly what just happened in this entire space. Even as we look at stocks, this is the S&P 500. Okay, today's open was wild. The number one thing that I was focused on was the S&P losing about 5,300. After that, we look for a fair value gap. The fair value gap on the lower time frames, roughly 5,000 to about 5,138. We wick down into this area. Love to see it. Now we need to reclaim this level at about 5,300. From there, now we could actually look at some higher levels to be targeted on the S&P 500. Again, watch for dead cat bounces to show. We are having a nice bounce on both the S&P 500, even the Dow Jones, and also even the NASDAQ. All three of which, except for the Dow has not targeted a fair value gap yet. On lower time frames, it has, but more so on the daily. I'm looking at this area down here if we could potentially see a big move down. If we start to see even more bearish posts and things like that, we don't know what could happen, but so far we are bouncing off a nice area of liquidity, very similar to the S&P 500. This is that area of liquidity. We're bouncing off of that on the Dow Jones. So far we have been holding this. Love that overall. NASDAQ, again, as we look at the NASDAQ, nice wick, filling the fair value gap fully, bouncing out of it. This is what you want to see. So far, stocks are not as bearish as everyone was making it out to be. And by the way, just real quick, zooming out on the weekly for the S&P 500, this is what the S&P 500 looks like. So as everyone is getting extremely bearish, zoom out. Simply zoom out. This drop on the S&P 500 from all-time highs was a total of 9.82%. Just for reference, back in 2020, this was a 36% drop almost. So again, exaggerated bearishness in this market, leading to cascades of liquidity, leading to major sell-offs. I do think that if there was a time for the sentiment to actually prove that we are bottomed, this would be it. Could we go lower and could I be wrong? Sure, but I do think that this very well could be the bottom for this market. Focusing on Bitcoin dominance, guys, we are now in an area where I am really focused on Bitcoin dominance to be topped out, leading into altcoins finally taking the lead in this market. This is what we want to see. This does look a little toppish on the weekly. If we go and look at, some lower time frames like the 12-hour, nice significant wick to the upside. Very similar to going all the way back to April of this year as well, where we had a nice wick to the upside and then just sold off. This could be what we wanted to see when it comes to Bitcoin dominance before we really have that major sell-off. This could be that last major move to the upside. Just really kind of looking at this on the weekly. If we go back in time a little bit, we now have a nice wick above the previous high. Very similar back here to January of, the end of December roughly of 2020 into January, going all the way back to September of 2019. It took a very long time for this actually to have that big bottom or that big top before it had that major move to the downside and losing out on that bottom from August of 2020. Over here, a little bit of a shorter amount of time frame. This was the April high and this is the August high. So now we look for a move to the downside. And just like that bottom back in August of 2020, we have that area. That is roughly 52.2%. Losing this bottom from January will be that big key sign. Losing 50% of dominance for Bitcoin, that will officially confirm that we are in an alt season. I do think that we will obviously confirm it earlier once we do start to top here and sell off. Altcoins will take the lead. Others dominance, I have been focused on this on the 3-week. Big shout out to Rickus Trades actually for putting me onto the 3-week chart on the others dominance, because this is a very significant chart. If we are looking at this logically, let's go all the way back to August 2019. Let's go back to December of 2020, and let's go back to May of 2023. Every single time that this chart has had a little bit of a major sell-off and we came back down to this trend line, we've bounced in a very large way for others dominance. This is altcoins. So altcoins right now, others dominance is proving that Bitcoin dominance could very well be at its top, because if we are going to have a significant move to the upside, let's go back to May of 2023. So this was April, this was May. Although yes, Bitcoin dominance did move to the upside, we still started to see altcoins taking a slight lead. This time around, considering how high others dominance actually is, with how high Bitcoin dominance is, I do think that once this starts to have that drop, this thing is going to go crazy. That's where we really kind of look at taking out the recent highs from December of 2023 and even March of this year, right around roughly 14%, almost. It's like 13.72. From there, I am watching for altcoins to officially start making new highs against their March highs, and then also potentially retesting all-time highs, breaking over them, and going into price discovery. Right now, when it comes to others dominance, the big focus here is on the 3-week, which we have 13 days. We have 13 days until this gives us an insight on where the 3-week is going to close. We have 13 days to close above this trend line. If we close above this trend line on the 3-week, it confirms that we're still holding this structure, and we're still expecting a much larger move to the upside when it comes to altcoins. So I hope that that kind of clarifies a few things. I hope that you guys are not getting too bearish out there when it comes to XRP, when it comes to Hbar, when it comes to all of these altcoins. I really do think that there is significant opportunities out there right now in this space that are extremely oversold. Obviously, averaging in is not a bad idea, but I like to see a clear, concise path in front of us before I average in. So, that could very well be reclaiming the lows from July. That would be a very big sign. Right now, we are trying to retest breaking over them. We're trying to reclaim it. I love to see this, especially when we're looking for strength after having such a massive move to the downside. So if we could reclaim this and close over this on the daily, that would be a very good sign of strength coming back into the market, especially for Bitcoin. So with that being said, if you guys enjoyed this video, if you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe to notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. And with that being said, this has been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.